Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here at the very top of the show, again, we're here in 2025. The No Name Music Cast is now in season 5, I believe.
Some noise, I don't know. Insert something here, Tim.
When I posted the New Year's Day episode, which you've already heard, and because I always change the season for the year, this is our 5th year of broadcasting.
Wow, is it really?
Yeah.
I know it came to be via I think it was a little bit pre-COVID, but that kind of bled into it, right?
Yeah, I mean, because we used to work together, and then we stopped working together because you went on to it for a different opportunity, and then it was around that time we started this off, and then. Yeah, as I said, we're in season 5, which means it's the 5th year of the No Name Music Cast.
I love it. We should keep doing more, and you should keep listening. That's all I got to say about that.
Absolutely. If you're listening to this now, thank you. You're in the elite, as it were, listening to this podcast every week.
And it's funny and it's super cute. And I don't know if Tim has had this in his life, but I have family members who I had no clue were listening. And they'll do little things or little cute things. Be like, Joy has her own podcast. And my mother is super sweet. She's like, Joy has her podcast. And my parents are big music people. We've talked about this. Mm-hmm. And so she'll top me up to friends and family. It's just the sweetest. And to be honest, I don't know about Tim, but I just don't think it's that much work. It's very little. We've gotten into a science, I feel, at 5 years, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's a little behind the scenes. Joy and I don't meet in person. We connect on Zoom because it's easier to do the files like that. We then hit record, do our episode, and then maybe a few days after the fact, I'll get the files. I will edit them and normalize them and mix them and all that kind of stuff. And if there's any edits that needs to be done, I will do that. I then post them to Buzzsprout. It's probably about the whole thing top to tail is maybe 35 minutes work, and bingo, they get posted, and then you listen to them.
Every once in a while, we have a little bit of editing, but basically, the grill was, everybody, if anyone who doesn't know, Tim does all the editing, Joy pays the bill, and that's the extent of it. And by bill, I mean, the $15 thing I paid a Buzzsprout. Everybody, it's not that extensive. No, if you want to send us money, come on, we'll take it.
Yeah, in fact, if anyone wants to sponsor the No Name Music Cast for 2025, we would be delighted to run some pre-roll ads for you. If you have a local business or you have something you wanted to do, we'd be happy for that.
Weirdly, you said that Brandy, my twin sister, who has been on the No Name Music Cast and has been talked about, she has a local business, Tim, that may become a sponsor this year. So I'll talk to you about that later. Did not tell Tim about this this episode, but that could be a thing. But anyway.
Well, there we are. Opportunities are abound for the No Name Music Cast in 2025.
So with that being said, Tim has a little bit of music news or something along those lines. Yeah. So I'll let him take it from here.
So we had some very sad news recently that we lost Jimmy Carter.
Oh, so you know what is the weirdest fact I learned about him today, Tim?
What's that?
And I am a Jimmy Carter lover. Don't, if you know me, you know that makes sense. Tim knows that makes sense. But he was the first president to put solar panels in the White House.
There we are. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people, even people who, who like the kind of politics that he had, said that he probably wasn't the greatest president in office. But since he left office, he's been the greatest American ever since.
I feel like he came in a very transitional time. If you look back, I think there's a lot of back and forth. And one thing you have to remember is he was a Georgia governor and he jumped into presidency. And from what I gathered, and this is just truly, I was not alive during Jimmy Carter age, and my father would have a lot to say about this podcast we'll put on him right now. But is he knew a lot about being a governor, but he struggled a little bit as a president. But what I gathered is he never weathered from his own personal beliefs, and he was very straightforward in what he thought was okay, which I appreciate. And they said he was very straightforward about humanitarian efforts in NATO and outside the United States. Tim, he was very good at like that diplomacy, but some of the intricacies of being inside was a little rough because he didn't have a whole lot of experience. America was coming off of Nixon, which we really don't need to get into.
Absolutely.
And then they went from him, and then they went to Reagan, and Reagan is a whole load of stuff. And I feel like he's overshadowed by Nixon and Reagan. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I said even people that sort of align with the things that he was into say that some of his actual policy decisions were not the best. But like you say, he always stuck by his beliefs and he did what he thought was right.
Sir, this man gave up his... Okay, so one thing that I want you to know is so I have to come to my Jimmy Carter defense mechanism because you know who I am, Tim. So the peanut, so he came from a peanut farm. His family had a peanut farm. He gave up every association, I don't know if he had stock in a peanut farm. I don't know what he had, but he disclosed everything. It was like, I have all this money in this peanut farm. We have never had a president disclose as much as Jimmy Carter did for his peanut farm. And you know what? Live your best life. Also, a president who puts solar panels in the White House is a president after my own heart.
Absolutely. And when he stopped being president, about 3 weeks later, he was building houses for Habitat for Humanity.
He literally, they said, a week before he passed away, he was still hosting child church. I don't know, like the people who do like the, you know what I mean, at church. Like he was with the children. Like he was doing his programs. Like the man, whether you liked him or not, he was true and true what he was, and that is what it is. Absolutely.
Well, the reason that I mentioned him, outside the fact that this is, a big news item, but the reason I mentioned him, he is set in the upcoming Grammys to win his 4th Grammy Award. Did you know he's a 3-time Grammy Award winner?
Of course he is. It's probably like he writes books or something. What? I mean, Grammys are music. What is he doing?
Well, the Grammys have lots of things, lots of technical things like best audio engineering and best
Obama's got 7, right?
Yeah, best 5.1 surround mix and all this kind of stuff. So it's for an audiobook for his recording, for his book of Last Sundays in Plains, a Centennial Celebration. A book I will never listen to or read. I'm sure if you're into that, it's probably great. But it was just interesting that the fact that he's set to get his 4th Grammy Award.
Joy's going to make an effort to go listen to it or read it out of spite now because my love for Ronald Reagan is very small. But anyway, we'll get into that.
Well, there we are. Well, rest in peace. You as an American hero and an icon, and you are likely to get another Grammy Award when the Grammys come up.
Posthumously.
Absolutely.
All right. So, for those who didn't predict what's coming, Tim already knows what's coming. It is Joy's Wrapped episode. Joy did get a Wrapped episode every year. I was very heightened, and this holiday season has gotten me, I don't know. It's been a weird one, Tim. It's just been a weird one for me. I don't know how everybody else feels. But in good news, I will give you a little bit of a play-by-play on what happened to me with the holiday season. My father asked for pajamas. He got a full bunny suit, everybody. 6'5" father, who's very broad, got a full bunny suit. Mother finally got the pastel raincoat she wanted, and so on and so forth. It was a pretty good overall. I had a great holiday season. And I'm very interested to see what 2025 brings in, because if you have been tuned into America right now, it's a very weird time to be alive.
Absolutely. Well, let's just say the No Name Music House is a safe space, and we will just be thinking about entertainment and all the good things in life. So
absolutely, that's what I mean for that. Yeah. So with that being said, everybody, I am going to talk to you guys about one of the weirdest things about the 2025 Wrapped was the little categories they put you in for the different months. Did you see that on your Spotify, Tim?
No, but I don't think mine had that. Now, I heard that certain people were getting different things on the Wrapped. It wasn't the same Wrapped experience for everybody.
Well, interesting. So, for me, February said, I find it funny. There's a data. I had 2 gigabytes of data when I was downloading it today. There's a warning at the top of my my screenshot. But February was coastal grandmother roller skating disco phase, whatever that means.
I have no idea.
March was the theatrical movie tunes musical season.
Okay.
All right, so those are examples of what I got. Apparently, Tim did not get those. So my top artists are very interesting. I'm going to do my top artists and my top songs, and then we're just going to dive into, the crafted playlist they give everybody, right? We'll talk about those songs. But so my number one, and I told you this is going to happen, Tim. My number one and my number two, I knew this was going to happen. Number one is Chill Astronaut. That's the lo-fi I listened to when I worked. Number two was Michelle Sanctuary, which is the when I can't sleep, because if you guys can't imagine, this brain doesn't shut off. Tim's like shocking everybody when she tries to go to sleep. So these are like the little sleep stories. But number three was ABBA.
Because this is much like my Spotify Wrapped, where I had a lot of it polluted with the band backing music playlist. So like your sleep one and then your working one are right there up the top. But yeah, I can see that ABBA. So really, ABBA would have been number one.
Yes. Number two was Elton John.
That doesn't surprise me, because I know you're a huge Elton John fan, and I could see that would be something that would be definitely on that list.
Timothy, what do you prefer? What do you hear? What the next one is? Harry Styles.
Yeah, well, as you know, thanks to the episode when I had to learn about Harry Styles made a little dent in my Spotify Wrapped.
Because we had to maybe push that episode off for like 3 weeks, we got stuck listening to Harry Styles longer and more than we normally would.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, he's not the worst thing that we have to listen to, right, Tim?
No, I mean, I've had to listen to a lot of rap albums recently, and it's fair to say I'd rather listen to Harry Styles than rap albums.
We'll give it up. All right. So I had played, the little stats, 931 songs. I felt like that was lacking, but I have to remember it's half Spotify. It's like 70% Spotify and 30% YouTube music, because I already did that episode. And then for podcasts, I have spent 1,323 minutes this year listening to podcasts. Now, for those who don't know, me and Tim do in fact listen to our own podcasts, as weird as that sounds, but it's mostly an after fact, and I've gotten immune to hearing my own voice. And Tim has definitely gotten immune, because I hate to say this way, as a token British person in Southwest Virginia, they use it for everything, like phone lines. Am I not right, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, where I work, every auto attend system on there, regardless of where you're calling, you will get me. And the thing is, I've done so many of them over the years that, like, years after the fact, someone will say, "Oh, can you? There's an auto attendant for the HR department. Can you just make a change to it?" And I'm sure. And you go and dial it to hear what it says right now. And I'm like, oh, did I do that one too?
Yep. And it's funny because I even remember when I was the HR person calling Tim, being like, can you fix this? Because the biggest one was around this time of year specifically, people calling for their tax returns, right? Mm-hmm. Push this number to get your tax return. And Tim would be like, okay, press number 4, blah, blah, blah. And it's just funny because I feel like your voice, and what's funny is when we talk to Tim's British friends, for the British friends listening, is they think he sounds a little plain now. I feel like you're fighting this, but for us in Southwest Virginia, who sound like a piece of sausage and eggs and bacon, we're like, Tim sounds you have a very, for those who are listening to Tim's voice right now, Tim has a very neutral tone. Am I crazy? Or is that a good way to explain it?
People have told me, people who English is not their first language, have told me my voice sounds like a language tape. Yeah,
it does. It does. I'm immune to it. It's funny when people bring this up, Tim, because I've been doing this, at least 5 years. I always crack up. And I mean, I don't mean this to be like I have some obligatory, I know Tim this well, but I do. And it's funny because when people say something, I'm like, yeah, I know. It's fine. Tim knows Joy's going to probably say something ridiculous, and I know Tim sounds like a language tape. All right.
So you were saying about the podcast. What are your top podcasts?
Yes. So my top podcast is the No Name Music Cast.
Yes.
And then it's True Crime Obsessed. is the
Okay.
next one. Murders and Mystery. We're seeing a trend here, everybody. Those are my top three. Those are my top three. I do listen to, there's like a courtroom one that they do a lot of courtroom type things. And I also have been, and this is not interesting, so I'm not going to put it out there, but I do law school ones. And also because Joy does her Duolingo for her French skills, I have the Duolingo French one and then a law school one.
Okay. And how many minutes did you listen to podcasts in this year?
1,323.
There we are. I will say I just brought up my stats. Now, bearing in mind, I wake up to podcasts and I have about an hour and a half's worth of wake up routine before I leave the house. I spent 30,771 minutes listening to podcasts.
What? I feel like 70% is the no-name music cast and the rest is just... So I used to really be into them, and I feel like I've really just gotten into this lo-fi, hi-fi. I don't know what it is. There's probably some weird psychological frequency that's happening that's taking over my brain.
Well, the thing is, I really like NPR, the National US National Public Radio. But there's a lot of like world topics that make me not want to listen to it anymore. So what I do, so what I do is I download the podcast and then I can curate which ones I want to listen to. And if one of them follows a particular topic I'm not interested in, I won't listen to that one. So I sort of curate my own NPR radio station.
That doesn't surprise me.
And I said my preference every morning is to wake to podcasts, not to wake to music. I find it just wakes my brain up a little bit to have that kind of talk radio type thing.
I kind of understand what you're saying, though, because I can see how the difference would. And I also don't have a drive to work anymore because I work from home. So I think that's a valid, like, it's a different scenario for me. If I were driving more, I thought there'd be more podcasts.
Yeah, with my solid 14-minute commute that I have.
I mean, if you were in the UK, it'd be at least 24 minutes.
Well, when I lived in England, I lived 3 miles away from where I used to work, and it used to take me 35 to 40 minutes to drive.
See, that's what I was trying to make a joke for, because I knew Tim was going to bring that up. That's one of his biggest complaints about living in England, was how long the commutes were. Absolutely. And it was always raining.
Raining and traffic and...
everybody's favorite.
The cost of everything or something. I don't know.
All right. So let's get into the music because that's why you guys actually listen to this podcast. My top songs, Tim, and to say I was surprised is an understatement. I don't know what I thought it was going to be. My top song for 2024, everybody, write this down, was That Don't Impress Me Much by Shania Twain.
Well, I mean, this is a great song, and as you know, this isn't an era of Shania Twain, which is fantastic. Your Mutt Lange production. It was when she was becoming full sort of country pop crossover. She had great hits. She was at her prime, and that is a fantastic song. But is that something you think? Yeah, I need a Shania fix, and is that the one you hit?
It's that, or is oh my God. I got my wet feet wet and she doesn't. Oh, what's the one where she's sitting on the porch, Tim? I can't think of it. Oh, God. I can play it on the ukulele. Oh, it's either that or this, though. You're right. It is my Shania Fix song. What is that song, though? I got my
I like That Don't Impress Me Much.
I mean, that's literally what we're talking about, Tim. That's my number one song for 2024.
Yeah.
And then it's, oh gosh, though. What is that song, though, where she's sitting on the porch? Said, oh, it was used in the Twister movie, which tells Tim nothing.
No, what I meant to say is Feels Like a Woman is what I meant to say.
Oh, man.
I get my titles mixed up.
Okay, but what is that song? Okay. She don't even know yet. No one.
Give it a goog, Joy. Give it a goog.
Oh, God. That's the song that's going to drive me insane. Shania Twain Twister movie. That's a good putting. Because I know what you did in the Twister. No One Needs to Know. It's
okay.
Actually that one, and then it's either That Don't Impress Me Much or No One Needs to Know.
Yeah.
Which is one of the first songs I learned on my ukulele. And if you know anything about Shania, that was like 1996. That's early Shania. No One Needs to Know. I don't know why. It's just everything about Shania Twain is perfect. That's what it is, Tim. She can't do any wrong. She just can't do any wrong. I mean,
certainly in that era, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know, Tim. I just can't. So number 2, and I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but this wasn't it either. You Make My Dreams Come True, Hall & Oates.
Interesting. I mean, I like the catalog of Hall and Oates. I really do. And there's
You make
such
my dreams come true?
yeah, and there's such strong songs from Hall and Oates. And as you know, we've called Call and Oates on the air. There's that emergency number you can call if you need to listen to Hall and Oates. But that's not one I would reach for. I'd reach for Man Eater or Private Eyes or something before that.
I feel like I listen to Rich Girl once a week. It's just so weird when you get your Wrapped and you don't realize what you don't know about yourself.
Yeah, when you start looking into these stats, it's very surprising. Now, I listen to a lot of Spotify since I've seen the light, as it were. And as you know, as it came up on my episode, I listened for 134,000 minutes in 2024 of Spotify. But I also listen to a lot of CDs in the house. So maybe some of the like my favorites don't get registered on that Wrapped list because if it's like an all-time favorite, the likelihood is I own it.
Yes, and I feel like that also, I'm cutting my stuff between, because we do have YouTube Premium, which I talked about. So I had minutes listened 100 and 352,000. So I'm not too far from you, Tim. Now, number 3 will not surprise anyone. It is the Spice Girls and Say You'll Be There.
Nice. I mean, I don't dislike the Spice Girls. The Spice Girls
we're gonna have to fight, Tim. We're gonna fight.
And the Spice Girls had some fantastic pop songs. They really did. But I mean, I would reach for "Who Do You Think You Are." That for me, that is my favorite Spice Girls song.
That's what's surprising to me, though. This is from the same album because "Say You'll Be There" is when they're still in the desert, right? And you got like all the cute little. But I mean, it's. Do you think ours like one of the best? I don't know. For me, it's weird because the other one that I go for is "Stop Right Now." Thank you very much. Like that's also, it's so interesting to me that this made number 3. I guess I don't know myself.
Yeah, I mean, does it appear on a playlist that you play a lot, or is it just you're just going into Spotify and going, yeah, I need my Spice Girls fix. Click.
Probably a combination of all of the above.
Okay.
Let's be honest. I don't have any answer. Like, I don't know. Tim, I don't know myself. All right. So number 4 is one that I don't even know if Tim knows the song. It's Pink, the artist, and it's Raise Your Glass.
No. I know a couple of Pink songs from the early 2000s, but Pink is not really an artist that I'm into. I have no negative things to say about Pink. But she's not an artist I would really reach for, if you know what I mean.
I will say this song was used a lot in Glee, so I think that probably is part of it. Okay. And it's a kind of like a battle cry of like the underdog. So raise your glass if you were wrong in all the right ways, all my underdogs. That's the lyrics. Okay. So I think that's probably why it's probably the Glee reference. But it was just funny to me that they made it out there. So I don't know what to say about this one because I have zero even like recognition of specifically playing this song. So it's weird to me, but it's December 1963. Oh, what a night by the Four Seasons. This is my number 5. Oh, what a night.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great song. You've spoken before about how you've had a great evening with friends. Maybe drinks are involved. There's been dancing. There's been all this kind of stuff. And then you've played stuff on a loop and then you've gone in the next day and was like, really? Did I listen to that? This song to me is the sort of song that would follow those circumstances. I could see you playing this 15 times and then the next day going, what did we play last night?
The only one that I specifically know that is in that realm is Gloria Estefan. I've talked about my Gloria Estefan days. There are a lot of songs of Gloria Estefan where I spent a lot of time on the Miami Style Machine and people have been drinking and I look the next morning. For some reason, when Joy gets drunk, Gloria Estefan comes on. She doesn't come on any other time, Joy. But for some reason, that's the song. All right. But it was weird to me. And it could be Tim's probably right. That like it's just like clicking through and I'm like, oh, I like this song. And this just happens to be the one I settle on because I do a lot of like playlists, like even pre-made playlists, and I click through them because let's be honest, everybody does this. You like put on a playlist and you're like, I'm just going to click until I find a song I actually want to hear.
Well,
we all do it.
I don't, in the world of Spotify.
Of course you don't. Tim has to be that person.
In the world of Spotify, I never ever use any of their pre-made playlists. They have a one for like that's called a For You daily mix. And I experimented with that when I first got involved with Spotify. And I found it was incredibly predictable. And it was just, I just don't want to hear these hits all the time. So I have my own playlist, my daily premium shuffles of stuff that I've put in playlists myself. But I find that the pre-made Spotify playlist, regardless of the genre or regardless of the artist, it's just predictable hit after predictable hit. They never get into deep tracks. They never get into cover versions. It's just... Yeah.
So I'll tell you what I do though. I go to the Spotify users, like my friends, and look at their playlists. Not the ones created by Spotify, but the ones created by users. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I fall into those, like that kind of like level. And I think that but I also will say, Tim's not wrong. I know it's predictable, and Joy just hits next until she finds the song she wanted to listen to. So maybe Tim's right on the money, and I should have just made my own.
Yeah, because I'm coming from a world, prior to getting involved with Spotify, where I had my own music library of MP3s. And I've curated it. It's only stuff that I like. And if I was going to make a playlist or make a folder of MP3s, it's going to come from my collection. So I know exactly what I'm getting involved with. And I find with the Spotify thing, I'm using it in the same sort of way. I use it for some music discovery. And if an artist has a new album out, I might listen to it, or a single, or if something comes out, you think, oh, what if they have this one? And yeah, it's there. But for the most part, any of those playlists that I build out, or anything I listen to is very deliberate. I'm not going in and it's not just saying greatest pop hits of 1985 and the hit shuffle. Yeah. I'm not really into that.
I mean, that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like I am into that to the point that I'll let's press play and see what happens. And then I just go next. So I found the song that I wanted to hear anyway. So I should have just been my own.
Yeah, because at that point, it's like you're listening to the radio, sort of.
All right, so I have my little top track songs. We talked about my top 5. Some of them were surprising, some of them weren't, if you know me. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go through my little top. So the one I'm going to pick, that it kind of I love this song, and I'm not shocked at all that it is on the list. Let me scroll down. It's What Becomes of the Brokenhearted by Jimmy Ruffin.
I mean, this is a stone cold classic. It really is. Where does that feature in your? You use it 100 that you have.
It's within 10.
Oh, okay. So it's right there up in the top 10.
Yeah. Yep, it's within top 10. And I don't know why. I feel like it's a little bit of a classic, but I can't actually think of another Jimmy Ruffin song. So maybe he's the one I wonder. Maybe he was a 60s person that had 74 hits and everybody's screaming at me and I don't know this. But What Because of the Brokenhearted is a beautiful song. And the soul, it's a great version of soul meets pop.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, is this Motown?
It's definitely Motown.
Yeah, because it's got that kind of production and sound.
Joy, Joy loves her Motown.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely written on Motown. So yeah, but Because of the Brokenhearted does not surprise me. It is featured, and I mean, it's probably been on 74 soundtracks for the last 20 years.
Oh, I mean, the thing is with the Pointer Sisters, their hits are so incredibly strong. But Jump, as one thing that comes to mind for me is it features in the season 3, episode 1, Knight Rider episode, The Night of the Drones.
It's been used in every, their music's been used in every good TV show since the beginning of time. But it's because their hits are so, I don't know. It's I don't know what to say, potent. I don't know how to explain it, but there's just something about them. Their voices are great. They're pop gold. They're just pop gold. And I feel like nobody talks about them as much as they're warranted.
No, I mean, look, I've just put in the Goog machine, Pointer Sisters hits, okay? I'm so excited. Slow Hand, Neutron Dance, Automatic,
so good.
Jump. I mean, every single one of those are amazing hits.
He's so shot. Great hit.
Yeah.
Hit after hit after hit. But I feel because they kind of were very much, they came out of California in the 70s and 80s, right? Mm-hmm. And they have a little bit of soul funk. I don't know what record they were on. I feel like they were on Motown at one point in time. I'm sure they probably were. But this is kind of past the Motown high, right, Tim? And to be fair, I feel like sometimes like some of these like acts like this with like two females, two African American females kind of come off. I don't know. I don't know if they get forgotten in time, but I feel like they do. And it's so unwarranted because they're amazing.
I mean, they shouldn't, because these are such strong pop hits. They are iconic pop hits. There's something about the sound that the Pointer Sisters had with their voices and that pop backing. I mean, certainly you can listen to it and it maybe does sound dated to some degree because of the production from the 80s.
Not to me, Timothy. This is modern day music that Joy listens to every day. We're not great, though. We once did an episode where me and Tim talked about music from 1872. So.
Well, I've been in negotiations to start a new music challenge looking at classical music, so I might be talking about some great stuff from the 1700s soon.
That's fair enough. So what's interesting, though, is I was doing the clicking machines as we were talking about them, right? The group had 13 top 20 hits between 1973 and 1985. 13, Tim. That's a huge number.
Yeah, I mean, icons, absolute icons with those songs.
And for those who don't know, is the group is June and Bonnie, and they were actually sisters. I don't know about the other one. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But they were sisters at one point, and their last name was Pointer. But the thing about it is that they do it. Their voices are perfect. They have like a good pop sound, but they kind of mix it with like soulful and like beautiful. I don't know. I feel like they're an underrated band, and I have to advocate for the Pointer Sisters. Anyway, so Jump for My Love was on my list. All right, Tim, let's just scroll. I'm going to try to find something that's a little bit fun that people are probably not thinking of. What they think of Joy? Well, they are thinking of that one. So let's just go a little further. Don't Bring Me Down, ELO, a.k.a. Electric Light Orchestra.
Absolutely. Praise silence, please, for the Electric Light Orchestra. Yeah, ELO are, as I said before, it's like they were big in the 70s. I remember growing up and 70s, early 80s, and ELO being a thing. And so then it kind of evaporated. You know, people still had their fans. And then there was this like mid to early, sort of early 2000s, 2010s.
I don't know where it came from, though. What brought it out?
Yeah, it was like an ELO renaissance. And all of a sudden, Jeff Lynne's ELO is playing Wembley Stadium. And everyone's going, wow, they're the greatest thing ever. I don't know where this renaissance came from.
I'm just going to tell you where it came from me. My parents listened to ELO growing up because they were into 80s music, Tim.
Yeah,
that's what it was for me. But he's right. It's like, it's a weird thing. We've talked about this. It's kind of like, there's a few other bands we talked about where people like talk about like REO Speedwagon is another example. And there's just like a renaissance of people being really obsessed with them. And you're like, where did that come from? I don't know what, maybe they've always been there secretly hanging out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, as we've discussed before, a lot of the artists that I like and very passionate about, I've always liked them since I was like 14 years old. I've always liked Brian May. I've always liked Van Halen. I've always liked Queen. I mean, and nothing has changed in that respect. So I've always been a fan all the way along. But maybe it's the same with these acts. But it's just funny how ELO has gone from, you know, having a fan base all of a sudden being blown into this huge proportion who can play stadiums.
Well, another one we talk about, like there's many artists like this. And I think some of it is from like, we talk about how TikTok and different TV shows have kind of like increased different things. Me and Tim are like, wow, why is everybody just learning about this song now? And for me, I grew up with a very good music education, and I attribute that to my knowledge, right? ELO was a band. CCR was a band that played in my house growing up. Like, Motown was huge in my family. We were listening from everything from Van Morrison to ELO, right? Like, and everything in between. And I even listened to, like, a lot of country music. But I always forget sometimes that people didn't always have that, right? And so, like, with Charlie, I'll introduce him to a song, and I'm like, what do you mean you've never... Like, today, Tim, we were... So for those who don't know, we were driving to my family, and we had the local radio on because we were in Charlie's car, and my phone wasn't connected, and I was already frustrated about this. So he's flipping through, right, Tim? We're in your favorite WVR, whatever it is, rocks. And he was like, today's R letter. Guess what came on, Tim? One guess what come on for R. REO Speedwagon. As soon as they said it's R, I went, it's going to be REO Speedwagon. And sir, REO Speedwagon's not here.
Well, do you know, I read an article the other day about US classic rock radio. And people continually complain about it. I mean, I don't listen to it. I don't listen to the radio. And as we've covered before, I haven't even tuned the presets in the last two cars I've had. I have had the car I've had now for 4 years. I had the car I had before that for 5 years.
Take it on the run, everybody.
Yeah, neither of those vehicles I tuned any of the radio presets in. So just putting that out there. But I read this article where people were saying, especially with US classic rock radio, you have these huge iconic artists, your REO Speedwagons, your Led Zeppelins, your Deep Purples, yet they distill their entire catalog down to one song or maybe two songs, and that's it. And then whenever you get in your car like you do and you put WROV on the Rock of Virginia, and then it goes through an annoying commercial, what do you get? Like Keep On Loving You for the 58 billionth time. Yeah. And why do they do that? And they said it's all to do with like listening minutes. They said FM music radio, I think the average listenership of radio is like 17 minutes or 16 minutes or something like that. So what they want to do is hook you in and play something you're very familiar with to make sure you're less likely to turn it off. And that's why all they ever do is they play these kind of tried and tested songs that you're familiar with and you're less likely to turn it off. I mean, personally, if I got in the car and Smoke on the Water for the 58th time came on, I'm going to hit end. Maybe let's see what NPR's talking about. Maybe it's not so bad today, but that's just me.
And I agree with Tim. And sometimes Charlie does his own ad-libs of the song. So Sister Christian came on. Sister Christian, everybody's favorite, right? And so we've heard that, a bajillion times. And I was fine with it. I'm like, okay, I'll take Sister Christian. It's not the worst. And guess what then? On top of having to hear Sister Christian, I had to hear Charlie's version because my husband knows no words. So he does ad-libs through the whole song. And I constantly yell at him, I don't even like when they're singing it. Can you stop? That's what it sounds like.
He's being very free with his interpretations, it sounds.
Okay. What was it he thought was happening to... Oh, they're motoring. Tim, when it says they're motoring in Sister Christian, right? He thought I was saying they're Motorhead, like the band. That happened in the car. He's like, he kept going, they're Motorhead. And I was like, that's not what they're saying. And he was like, are you sure?
I think it'd be better if they were saying they were Motorhead. I mean, Lemmy was a legend.
I might listen to Motorhead before that. More interesting, but anyway.
I mean, if WROV started playing Bomber or something, or even Ace of Spades, I'd be impressed.
I would. Okay, I have heard Ace of Spades once or twice, but of course it's Sister Christian. But I was just like, okay, I can take Sister Christian. At least it's not Sweet Home Alabama, right, Tim? Just let it play.
That is an instant turn the radio off or
we'll just sit in silence, Tim, before I'll listen to that. So, but I'll sing a version of Jingle Bells before we listen to Sweet Home Alabama. But I was like, okay, it's fine. But then he kept going, they're Motorhead. And I was like, that's not what they're saying. I was ready to fight it. That was the entire right to my family today. All right, so let's get back to Joy's rap. Another one that is a band that I absolutely adore. But I will say, I don't know how many people are obsessed with the self-entitled album of Aqua, but my top Aqua song is not Barbie Girl. It is Dr. Jones, as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, your casual Aqua fan would have your Barbie Girl, but, Dr. Jones is for the hardcore fans.
Well, I was obsessed with the Blue album with the Aqua band. You know what I mean, Tim? I was absolutely obsessed with the album. And the thing about it is Dr. Jones is just like the cusp of it. It surprised me that this is the only song that made it on there because I absolutely adore Aqua as a band. Mm-hmm. And I think they're completely underrated. And you listen to Boom, 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 I Want You in My... That's that band, right? The Vega Bus?
Yeah, Venga Boys.
Vega Boys, that's what it is. And they're on a bus. That's why I said Vega Bus. But I feel like that song is kind of become mainstream, but I feel like Aqua does that better. And people don't even know it. I really adore that self-titled Aqua album. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I feel like it's completely underrated.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you could probably class it as throwaway pop of the time. but it's resonated with you and you like it and you continue to enjoy the art that they created. I mean, I don't know if Aqua.
I think it was aquarium or something. I think it was an aqua. I don't know. They call it like aquarium or something. But Tim, Happy Boys and Happy Girls, a bop.
Now, are they still out there getting it done?
I absolutely have no idea, to be honest. What happened to them? All right, let's give it a Google, everybody, because I don't know. Because I think that was actually called Aquarium, not Aqua. Everybody, don't come for me. But Happy Boys, Happy Girls, like Lollipop, the Candyman. You know what I'm talking about? Like that, like it was so iconic. I actually don't even know where are they even from.
I think they're Swedish.
Danish. Okay, here we go. Close enough. So Candyman was their like number one hit, and it says Dr. Jones, Turn Back. They did a version of Turn Back Time, Roses Are Red. Oh my. Oh God, I just remember that song was a good one. Joy's obsessed with this album, guys. So we're having a moment. Of course, it's just like throwaway Euro dance. Mm-hmm. I can't believe they were never on like, what's that TV show where they all compete, Tim?
The Voice?
No, in Europe. Like the one that ABBA won.
Oh, Eurovision Song Contest.
I love how I just like people listening are probably screaming Eurovision at Tim right now. I can't. Where is Aqua? Let's just do this. Still touring. I can't find anything to confirm.
What's happened to them? Where did they go?
They have tour dates in 2025, Tim. They have tour dates in 2025. Most of them are in Denmark, so it may be very specific to their Danish history. But
well, I've been to Denmark. I've been to Copenhagen. I mean, maybe I should go back. I don't know.
They're literally in Tivoli. I don't know if I said that right. Copenhagen.
I think it's Tivoli, I think.
Tivoli.
Yeah, I think it's Tivoli.
We'll take what Tim says because it's probably more accurate than I said. But they're in Copenhagen. And in America, Copenhagen is a type of tobacco.
Copenhagen's fantastic. Hannah and I went there. We had such a nice time. In fact, we was talking about this yesterday. In fact,
that's funny.
So I'd been to the Hard Rock Cafe in Copenhagen many, many years prior. Now, as you know, Hannah and I like visiting Hard Rock cafes, and I wanted to make sure that we'd all been to the same one. So she'd taken me to Myrtle Beach, so we were almost exactly the same with our Hard Rock Cafe visits. However,
of course,
I'd been to Copenhagen and she hadn't. So when we lived in England, we went on a long weekend to Copenhagen so I could take her to the Hard Rock and sort of level the score, as it were. So it was I think the flight was like British Midland or EasyJet or something. It was fine. And we fly into Copenhagen and then we stayed in this hotel. The hotel was actually very nice. It was very comfortable. Okay. No complaints. The room was okay. Little quirky, maybe a little dated, but Danish and quirky and fine. However, the hotel was kind of cheap for how nice it was. And we was in the middle of the red light district.
Oh.
And, we didn't have a car or anything. So, we was walking out to various attractions in Copenhagen and then coming back to our hotel at night, not too late. And you come back, very gingerly come back through the streets of Copenhagen back to our hotel. And then you get to the room and then you'd look out the window. And
there's bright red lights.
Well, it's not so much that. What was interesting is it was freezing cold. Absolutely freezing cold. It was like in the winter.
Can I say something? Where is Denmark? Because I actually can't visually think about where it is on the map, Tim.
Well, you got like
why is it cold there?
You got Sweden and Norway, and then it's
so it's up there. Okay,
it's like at the south of Sweden. Okay.
And
there were ladies of the night, doing what they do. And it was interesting. For one, they were trying to show themselves off a little bit, but it was freezing cold.
They want you to buy.
Yeah, but it was utterly freezing cold. So that was interesting to watch. But the interesting thing is that they would try and tempt people walking past to spend some quality time. And it's like every now and again a couple would go and a couple would go, and there'd be like one left. And you're like, come on, someone needs to take her home. Come on,
go! It's really cold. Somebody just help this poor woman.
Anyway, it's no judgment, all part of life and all that kind of stuff. But it was an interesting experience in Denmark.
So the American version is the time that me and Charlie were in Wyoming and our car broke down, and we had to stay at a hotel across from the strip club. It was a whole thing. All right. I mean, I love that. They live their best life, Tim.
Absolutely.
Now, my next song is something that I love this song, but once again, my own. Does your rap ever surprise you, Tim? Because it surprises me.
Yeah, as you know, when I went through my rap, it was polluted a lot with those band songs. And
but every now and again, sometimes you're like, what?
Yeah, you'd see a song, you're like, really? Did I even play that?
The king of wishful thinking, Go West, is if I don't have a CBS playlist already in mind. Like, that's the most CBS playlist song I've ever heard.
Now, that is from the film Pretty Woman.
It is, but it's a great song. Oh,
it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I like We Close Our Eyes from Go West. I think that is a stronger song.
Yes, but I have never in my mind thought that I specifically sought out the king of wishful thinking by Go West. So it's weird to me that it's within the top 20 songs. All right. So let's see here. Let's find something that we... Okay. Tim will like this, but to be fair, this is very Americanized that it's on my list. It's Tom Jones' Not Unusual.
Oh, an absolute classic. Now, I may have told this story before, but I'm going to say it again. I used to have a residency at the Lakeside Country Club in Frimley, and I played with the Guilty Party for that residency at one Christmas season. And It's Not Unusual was on our set list, and I performed it. And then the compere backstage told us in the break, he said the guy who wrote that song was in the audience.
I mean, that's amazing. I love that for you. Did it make you... I'm glad they told you after the fact, to be honest. It would be weirder if they told you before. Yeah,
because, from a guitar player's perspective, it's just like a C and a D minor and a G and some stuff. And there's that bit that goes... I mean, it's not terribly difficult to play.
What's that guitar part again? How do you do that?
There was always a rumor that it was Jimmy Page that played it, because Jimmy Page, before he was in Led Zeppelin, was a famous session guitarist. And he played on a lot of hits that you wouldn't think he played on. And a lot of people said that he played that little guitar solo, and It's Not Unusual, but it wasn't him. It was someone else. I think it was Big Jim Sullivan as the person who played it.
I mean, that's fair. So this is a weird one, and this is a weird one for me, because for those who don't know, there is a UK and American version of this band. It's All Saints. How familiar with All Saints are you, Tim?
Yeah, they did the song The Beach, which is a film I've seen. I went to see that at the cinema, and I actually like that song from Pure Shores, isn't it, by All Saints?
Mm-hmm. It is, absolutely is. So the song that is on my list, and for those who don't know, I don't know if Tim knows this song, but it's Never Ever. But what's super interesting about this band is there's two versions. There's an American version and there's a UK version. And this song, I laugh because even in the American version and the UK version, which the UK version was the original, it's just like an extended cut, if that makes sense, Tim. And the American version is kind of like a watered down version. It's not really that much difference. I love both versions. I tend to listen to the UK version because I like the extended version, because I like All Saints, because I'm a cheesy lover of all 90s pop, because that's, I was born in 1990 and you get what you get. But what's interesting about this is there's one part where she says, I think it's the Melanie girl, she goes from A to Z. And she says it in the UK version and in the American version. And everybody else who sings, when they water it down for the American version, they kind of change the ad-libs. She was like, no, I'm going to say Z in both.
Yes, because if I'm thinking of Wannabe by the Spice Girls, they sing
yes!
A to Z.
They do. And I don't know why, but it stands out to me, Tim. It's very British. It's very, maybe because I've been around you and you make an effort to say Z. And where I did take French for years, and Z, is what we say, And so for me, it just cracks me up because every time I hear her say it, she'll be like, and so she'll say it in the UK version, she says A to Z. And then in the American version, everybody else watered it down, and she made sure to put that Z in there. For good or for worse, course you did. I loved it. And that stands out to me when I hear this. But I love All Saints. For those who don't know, Joy she's a fanatic of All Saints, and I don't know more than 3 songs because they didn't have more than 3 songs, but all 3 songs were great. And they're from London in like 1993.
Yeah, it was a moment in time. The song that you're talking of, I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah,
it was
I'm sure you are. It was the number 1 hit.
It was a chart hit at the time. But as I said, for me, if I'm going to reach for All Saints, it is going to be Pure Shores.
I mean, I actually agree with you, though. There are better ones. What's weird to me, though, Tim, is for some reason under genres, it comes up as pop, and then it comes up as Christian, and I can't imagine the reason it comes up as Christian is because it's labeled All Saints. But I think that's kind of an oxymoron in the term of this band.
Well, it's the same way. Like I've got a login for Spotify for creators, and I've claimed the No Name Music Cast, and our thing used to be not music, but it was set as comedy.
It's true.
Yeah, and I've tried to put it in as music, and I think it now says music and comedy.
It does.
But it's like something about that system decides that. Someone's not necessarily curating it. I'm sure if Taylor Swift puts new music on Spotify, someone personally creates that and checks the tags are correct and check the genre is correct, or another artist of that, that magnitude. But for an All Saints who were a pop band in the 90s, or us making an independently made podcast, a logarithm is making it, and then it saves it, and that's that.
I just find it funny because I'm like, well, I mean, they tried to play on that. I don't know why. It cracks me up because it's All Saints. All right. So the next one, it's one that I like this band. Love this band. Actually, great band. But why, you might think, the Cars.
Wow, because they're great. Elliot Easton is a fabulous guitar player. He crafted some of the most amazing and memorable guitar solos in all of sort of pop rock history, and they came out with great songs. I mean, but I mean, I don't know. Do you like the Cars? What's the song?
I absolutely love the Cars, but I would have thought it's more like Just What I Needed, Magic. You know what I mean? I don't know why it's this one. Drive. Don't Just Shop, You Are the Girl, It's All I Can Do, Church Go. Like, I love the Cars, Tim. They're like that synthetic, yes, Joy, synthetic pop, new wave rock that like I love. Like the synth pop is perfect. They killed it, right? Like the Cars are iconic, but I don't know why. I just like, you might think is not the one that I think, because that's coming from the Heartbreak City album, which is mid-'80s, which I love. But I don't know. It's just surprising to me because I listen to these bands. I think what surprises me is the song. Like, you know what I mean? It's not the band being on there. It's the song that I listen to the most. I think it's the most surprising.
And it was Drive, you say, was the track?
No, it was You Might Think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
which is weird to me.
Yeah, that's an unusual choice. But I mean, facts are facts and stats are stats. So you must have listened to that on some level.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I feel like I'm not surprised at the band. I just get surprised at what the top song is. Kind of like Shania Twain. I was surprised that was the top Shania Twain song. Like if I had the Beatles, I would be surprised if my top song was Day Tripper, right, Tim?
Sure.
Like that's just not one that I go out of my way to. But anyway, so that is my expression. Now, this is a song I absolutely adore. I love. I'm happy it's on this list, and I can't not listen to this song. This is the Scissor Sisters. I Don't Feel Like Dancing.
Yeah. Again, this song
iconic
became massive, and it was one of the first viral hits because it had a video where you could go onto their website, upload your faces to it, and then it was Scissor Sisters dancing, and then it had you and all your friends' faces on it. And it was one of the first examples of that in the early 2000s. And it was a clip that was being sent around by email or maybe Facebook at the time, probably. But certainly you'd get them in an email. Like I remember when I was in Rough Justice, waking up one Saturday morning after a gig, and Mike Stoner, the other guitar player, sent this link through. And it's like me and somebody else, me and Rob in the band, dancing to this Scissor Sisters song. And it's kind of funny, and no one had ever done that sort of thing before. And that really propelled them and propelled that song to being as big as it was.
I I think it was, but I also feel like for me, when it comes to, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know it was like the hit, like it just kind of hit right at that iconic time in internet history, which gave them a far like push. But for me, there's something about that, like wake up in the morning, da, 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 da. There's something about that breakdown in the music that is so like, you know what I'm talking about, Tim? But I don't feel like dancing. Da, da, da. It's so iconic. It is an underrated. It's not an underrated song. I don't feel like people talk about it very much. Like I feel like a lot of people know the song, but they're not actively listening to it. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, they were from that era. I mean, they may be still out there performing, but they're
they
not
very
an
well
artist.
could be. I
Yeah, but
honestly
they're
don't
not
know.
really an artist that gets spoken about a lot these days.
But there's something, and maybe it's because Joy is a sucker for Motown and 70s, right, Tim? Because there's something very 70s about that wake up in the morning, dun, 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 dun. And you know, I mean, it's about dancing. But there's something in this song that like makes my heart like very happy.
Well, it's
I don't know how to explain it.
it's a great song, written and
It
recorded.
is.
It's in a major key. It's about dancing. It sounds happy. I mean, why would you not like it?
It's true. So if
Yeah.
you're not listening to Sisters, do it. Now we're gonna do about two more songs, and I'm looking through here. I've been through Elton John 1,000 times on this podcast. I'm avoiding them, and I'm avoiding the Queen songs, Tim. There's a list of Queen songs and Elton John on here. I'm pushing through, so we're not getting to those. Let's see. Tim will not like if I put that one, so we're gonna skip that one because he plays it. I'm not going to say it, guys, but it's Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison.
Yeah,
and he's tired of hearing that one.
Move on to the next one, Joy.
Exactly. What a Man by Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, we spoke of Salt and Pepper a few episodes
We
ago
did.
because we was talking about Spinderella.
We were. And Tim was like, what's their DJ? And I was like, I don't know. And then he said it. And I was like, oh, I did know. But to be fair, I love Salt and Pepper. I find it weird now that one of them is very into religious music, and not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like a 360 from the life they lived in the 80s. But you know, we get older, Tim. We live a different life.
Absolutely. People change, you get into different things. You know, the No Name Music Cast is a judgment-free zone. And, you know, if that's your thing, embrace it, enjoy it.
All right, so let's see here. Let me give one that I feel like I don't know why this specifically. So Prince is a wonderful artist.
Of course.
But the song that comes up on my list is Kiss by Prince.
Yeah, this is a great song. I mean, it was famously covered later on by Tom Jones, going back to your Tom Jones song that you spoke of. But yeah, I don't know if this is a song that gets as much airplay as, you know, some of his other iconic songs, your Purple Rains, your Sign of the Times, and that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Well, what's interesting to me about, I think, for Kiss is it has a lot of really cool kind of intricate breakdowns in it. Like, I feel like, so, I mean, we could go all day, and Tim would be even better. And I don't think Tim would say he's like, Tim, do you think you're a guitar virtuoso? Be honest.
No, one thing about the guitar is you will never ever master it. You ask Steve Vai that question, and he will probably say no. If you ask Joe Satriani that question, if you asked Brian May or BB, or if you'd have asked BB King when he was alive, if you'd asked George Benson, are you a virtuoso? All of them will say no, because you could never master that thing.
It's such an interesting thing, and so. If I had to pick a virtuoso, I feel like Prince is one of those people that I think could, in fact, be a virtuoso in his own right, but maybe not of the guitar, just of music, right, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, he was a sort of musical genius, a virtuoso of music, but I mean, he was a fabulous guitarist, and as we've said before, most people in the guitar community didn't know how good a guitarist he was until he
came out.
Yeah, until he did that thing at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But yeah, I mean.
So the reason I say that, though, is what's interesting about the song, and I think that what stands out to me, Tim, though, is the reason I asked you that is there's something very cool about this song. Like, it's nitty, it's gritty, it has a groove to it that, like, I feel like is underrated. And I actually know there's a modern day song from an artist Tim would not know, but it doesn't matter. She did a version of it. And as soon as I heard it, it was a hit for me. Janelle Monáe is her name. And, like, it had that, like, he has like a very good way, and I don't even mean like a guitar virtuoso, but like it was the guitar because he's playing into these like interesting grooves that you don't get in. Come like Nile Rodgers. We've talked about Nile Rodgers a thousand times. It has like this way of like bringing in the soul, and like Kiss has that kind of cool, fun, funky thing. That's what it is for me. And so when I want to listen to a Prince song, I want that cool, fun, funky kind of groove. I don't want like Party Like It's 1999. I don't want When Doves Cry, Tim. I know that's controversial, but that's not what I want when I listen to Prince. I want that funky kind of, I don't know, earthy, for lack of a better term. Does that make sense? Do I sound crazy? But that's why I think Kiss is on my list. Wow, your Kiss is on my list. That wasn't a pun, everybody.
Well, here's a question. Here's a question for you, Joy.
Okay.
Has the band Kiss ever covered the song Kiss?
I don't know. Have they? They probably have. That sounds right.
I think they probably would. If they thought they could make
marketing.
They thought they could make some money doing it, they probably would have.
If they haven't, we need to go find it. Charlie was watching. Oh my God, what was it? It's this movie about a duck. That sounds so weird, but there's a reference to this. There was a guy that was like a duck in the 80s. Oh my God, what was it? Duck? They did a new version of it, Tim. And Charlie was watching the new version of it. And in the new version, they were singing, I was made for flying to the baby.
Really?
And the neighbors start screaming at them. And he goes, wait to hear this. I had to laugh because I almost corrected the show, and then Howard the Duck corrected it. They were singing it, and she was like, the neighbor upstairs was beating on the thing. She's like, shut up. And they're like, we're just trying to sing our baby to sleep. And she goes, with 1980s music. And he goes, oh, how do you know? They wrote that song in the 1970s. Because I was like, Charlie, that song's not from the 80s. It's from the 70s. And then the show corrected. And I don't know why. I could care less about Howard the Duck. I don't even know that much about the original. But that bit cracks me up so bad. Because, like, and I don't know about you, Tim, but, like, sometimes I have a hard time where I'm like, people will say something like, oh, that's this. And I'm like, no, Joy, just calm it down. I was like, that's not from the 80s. I was yelling at the neighbor on the show. And then Howard the Duck goes, oh, how do you know that song's from the 70s? Because I feel like everybody forgets about Kiss's, like, 70s. You know what I mean, Tim? Like, they were alive and well in the 70s. Beth came out in the 70s. It didn't come out in the 80s.
Yeah, their roots were in the 70s.
Hard Luck Woman was the 70s, even though everybody thinks Rod Stewart wrote that song.
Absolutely.
Anyway, all right, so that's my Wrapped. I don't know how to feel about it. I just find it, for me, Tim, this is my final piece on my Wrapped, is I'm not that weirded out about the artists. Spice Girls, Shania Twain, Elton John, you know what I mean? All Saints. It was the songs. Like, I felt like I like better, like there's better songs than what made it on my Wrapped. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's probably like you're right. I have a habit of just clicking different things and then finding what I want, and probably some, I don't know. There's some ulterior motive in Spotify out to get me. No, I'm kidding. It's probably just I click through songs and I let it play.
There we go.
It's probably not as serious as I want it to be. All right, Tim. So for 2025, what is your advice for all the people who listen to this podcast?
I have one piece of advice and one thing to say. My piece of advice for 2025, if you're using a Dremel, use eye protection.
Why?
Because I might have got a little piece of metal in my eye earlier using a Dremel. I was very lucky.
Well, I mean, that's what I figured. I figured there was something that was leading you to say that.
I was cutting a screw. Okay. And I was looking away while I was doing it, thinking, ha, Dremel, this will be fine. And
you wear glasses, too.
Yeah, but I have to take, because I'm old now, Joy, I have to take my glasses off for up close work.
He is 107, everyone who's listening. 107 now. We've reached 107.
Yeah, so the guitar I'm working on is all up close work. So I'm taking my eyes off and I'm cutting this pickup screw.
That reminds me, Charles owes you wasn't he supposed to print you something for this guitar? Remind me when we get off of here.
It's fine. We'll figure it out. Anyway, but yeah, a tiny little piece of metal flicked up into my eye. Luckily, it landed in the corner and I was able to get it out with a cotton bud.
Oh, well, everybody stop the presses. All right, what's next, Tim? What else are you going to tell the people for 2025?
Just be kind to everyone that you meet. The world needs more kindness.
I have one bit of news. This is not official news. For those who don't know, Joy and Tim were talking about birthstones before the episode. For those, and Joy's a ruby. She's a ruby. She was showing this fabulous bracelet she got for Christmas that has a ruby. And she asked Tim, "What is your birthstone?" And Tim goes, "I have no idea." So I looked it up. Tim is an October baby. For those who don't know, he went to Las Vegas, which is a fake figment of everybody's imagination, as we talked about on the episode. Does not exist in real life. Tim, your birthstone is opal, which is the white kind of, you know what I'm talking about, opal.
Well, there we go. Joy, I learned something today. Would you look at that?
Here's a question for you, Tim. What is Virginia's state bird?
It's the cardinal.
Yay, Tim, know that. All right, bye.
Bye. See you later. Bye.
To remind me of another day to come.